years old, and he has a wingspan, or in this case, a peck span of over 10 feet long. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to meet Kayuke. Aren't they just incredible?
They sure are. You can see how different each whale is. But did you know that there are even bigger differences in the wild? What if I told you there are actually different kinds of killer whales? Scientists research them as ecotypes. They live in different habitats, have different body types, and even pursue different kinds of food. But even though there are different kinds of killer whales, they are all still considered members of the same species, or Sinus orca. One of the questions that we get asked all the time is, how big does a killer whale grow to be? Well, that answer would depend on which ecotype you are talking about. Is it a 16-foot female in Iceland or a 30-foot male in Antarctica? Let's take a closer look.
The remarkable thing about killer whales, no matter which type, is that they are found throughout our global ocean, from the Arctic to the Antarctic, and literally are more intertwined in our ocean than any other marine animal. Truly, these awesome animals are the living symbol of our ocean, representing so much more than their own species.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for our two male killer whales, Kayuke and Tuar.
Awesome! Well, let's see what questions we've received about them. Oh, here we go. So many people wonder about our trainers. In fact, raise your hand if you've ever wanted to be an animal trainer. Wow, that's a lot. Then you should meet our dedicated team of trainers who interact with our family of killer whales here every day. You've already met Brittany. Brittany, who else do we have joining us today?
Joining me on stage, to my right, I have Emily, and to my left, I have Doug.
Our killer whale trainers are so passionate about what they do here every day. And that makes me think of another great question. Do the trainers talk to the whales? I'll let you answer that one, Brittany.
That is a great question. Now, we may not communicate with our whales the way you and I communicate with each other, but we develop a very unique set of signals in order to communicate with them. Now, if we bend at the waist, like our trainers are demonstrating, our whales will nod their head in an up and down motion. And if we raise one arm up in the air, they're going to mimic us and put up that pectoral flipper. And if we wave, they're going to wave right on back. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and give Kai to our nice big wave hello. Now this ongoing communication is just one way we build strong relationships with our whales. Because of this connection, one of the things we're able to do is answer important questions through research.
Here at SeaWorld, we have a unique opportunity to have research about killer whales, asking important questions that can only be answered in a setting like this.
Recently, we conducted groundbreaking research. We wanted to understand how killer whales' hearing ability works. Now, to do this, we taught them to respond to a hearing test very similar to one you or I might take at the doctor's office. From this research, we learned killer whales have remarkable hearing, and they can even hear frequencies higher than humans can detect. Now, with this data, policymakers will be able to protect wild whales and dolphins from noise pollution, which could be associated with boat traffic.
So much of what we learned is help killer whales in the wild. Of course, there are other questions that can only be explored by studying whales in the ocean. By exploring questions both in SeaWorld and in the wild, our combined research gives all of us a better understanding of killer whales and the places they live.
And that's what I call working together. Research flowing in both directions, from our parks to the wild and back again, means everyone benefits. Wow, isn't that a lot of questions? Well, believe it or not, we get them every day.
We sure do. And to answer that top question of do they talk to each other, of course they do. They use different sounds or vocalizations in order to communicate with each other. Now listen up carefully as Kai and Tuar demonstrate some of those sounds.
And also, out there in the wild. We just learned that killer whales communicate with each other by using vocalizations and body language. But do you remember how we communicate with them? That's right, with signals. Here at SeaWorld, we communicate with our whales every day. And we want the next generation to be able to do the same.
One example from the bays that are in those tail flukes. We also train them what we call a slide-out behavior. Hayuki is going to be demonstrating that slide-out behavior right now. This slide-out behavior allows us to take their weights. Now we take their weights, we can make sure they're going properly and at a healthy rate. Now we also train our whales what we call high energy behaviors. These behaviors include behaviors such as fast swims and reaches. Now to get your cameras ready towards the center of the pool, Tuar is going to be demonstrating one of those high energy behaviors. Now you'll see killer whales doing these kind of behaviors out in the wild and here at SeaWorld. Now Kai is going to be demonstrating another one of those behaviors. He's going to be doing a sliding bow or jump in the back of the pool over there. Now this sliding bow allows us to get the momentum to dive down to the bottom of our 40-foot pool. Now all of these high energy behaviors help us ensure that our whales get the proper exercise they need every single day.
Wow, Brittany, with all of those high energy behaviors, I'm sure that our guests are wondering just how much does a killer whale need to eat to stay healthy?
Just like us, each killer whale has their own dietary needs. Kamea, who is one of our younger killer whales at 3 years old, she weighs almost 2,000 pounds. So every day, she eats 80 pounds of fish. Now Kai over here to my right, he weighs over 9,400 pounds. So on a daily basis, he gets 160 pounds of fish each day. Now it's important to note, no matter what our whales do, they will always receive all of the fish out of all of their buckets.
Because we were able to determine how much killer whales need to eat during different stages of their lives, researchers in the field can use this information to tell if oceanic habitats are healthy enough for killer whale populations to thrive. And that kind of information is invaluable.
Food, exercise, and physicals from our veterinary staff are all our killer whales need. Each killer whale's well-being is so important to us. We want to make sure that their minds are being stimulated and challenged each day. This kind of stimulation and enrichment without all of these high energy behaviors help us ensure that our whales get the proper exercise they need every single day.
Wow, Brittany, with all of those high energy behaviors, I'm sure that our guests are wondering just how much does a killer whale need to eat to stay healthy?
Just like us, each killer whale has their own dietary needs. Kamea, who is one of our younger killer whales at 3 years old, she weighs almost 2,000 pounds. So every day, she eats 80 pounds of fish. Now Kai over here to my right, he weighs over 9,400 pounds. So on a daily basis, he gets 160 pounds of fish each day. Now it's important to note, no matter what our whales do, they will always receive all of the fish out of all of their buckets.
Because we were able to determine how much killer whales need to eat during different stages of their lives, researchers in the field can use this information to tell if oceanic habitats are